What is going on, everybody? Hope you're all having a wonderful Tuesday. Been a little frustrating DFS wise. I know I had a couple winning days at the end of last week, but nothing like significant. And then just got not crushed last night. I actually did okay in NBA on FanDuel, but just not pretty. It's not been good. Can't seem to get. I literally am. Sheet said he was running good with the caching variance or whatever. I'm on the bubble like every single day. It's
that's a rough way to live, like living on that bubble.
And it doesn't sound like much, but yay, those $1,500 at a time, they
yeah.
Anyway, so go ahead.
So this is what I had. So I did okay in baseball on DraftKings because I had those Tampas and Margot got there for me in the ninth, which was
I thought he hurt you in the ninth.
No, he got there for me in the ninth.
Oh, I totally misunderstood your message earlier.
No. That was pretty big for me actually. That moved me from like 50th to like 14th in like the 250 or something like that. So that got me. That did nicely for me. And I also had another really low owned guy hit the home run that did a Dames. I had him too. But Brandon Lowe couldn't freaking hit the ball. He was and he was up with like runners in scoring position like every freaking inning, and he couldn't do anything. And I got exactly what I wanted out of my cheap pitcher. I got like 10 points out of whatever that guy was. Was fine. But this is what I wanted to tout. Okay, so you guys are all gonna, and Bob doesn't know I'm gonna talk about this. So again, I wish I was just not doing this video with Bobby. I wish I was totally independent. So like you wouldn't say I was just saying that because Bobby was there. So just when I think that I like kind of know something, whatever it is, like Bobby's been doing this a long time, and I know that sometimes it seems like everybody looks at these guys like just like data points on a thing or whatever. You don't really know about the sports. You don't really need to know about whatever. But Bobby has like a lot of in-depth knowledge about this stuff that a lot of people don't. And some of the NBA stuff he talks about. But me not listening to Bobby cost me, I would say, about maybe $1,000 last night. Okay, and the reason why is I played my ADA, which I liked and he liked, and I played some lineups and I paired them with the cheap guy, all in the name of jamming in these Padres. Okay, I figured, and especially with the Dodgers out, I can afford these Padres. I'm just going to jam them in. And Bobby spent a full 3 minutes explaining to me, listen, dude, I just want to tell you that this Tyler Anderson, he's not just some dumpster fire that people could just attack. I mean, he used to play him. He pitched in Colorado like his whole freaking career. And I'm just paraphrasing, okay? But he's sneaky. He's got tricks. And without saying it, he was like, dude, maybe that's not the greatest idea. And I had all kinds of Padres. I had I had one lineup on FanDuel. I had Maeda in the books. I had Alonso, right, who was perfect. I had another great one-off, and I had all the Padres in one freaking clump, ready to kill people. I had some DraftKings lineups where I had perfect. All I need the Padres to just get their median freaking projection, pretty much, and I was going to do great. And I had to watch it. I watched almost every at-bat of these guys being made to look silly by this guy that throws it like 40 miles an hour. And I'm like, fucking Bobby, he's so freaking good at this shit sometimes. And I only wish that I had listened. So when Bobby throws it, you got to read between the lines, man. When I'm about to do something, Bobby says, well, I don't know. That's code for, dude, you're screwing up. You got to listen to me on this one. So when Bobby goes into the deep dives about these pitchers, he does know what he's talking about.
I appreciate that. It's nice to hear a little positivity this morning because I you know me, I'm a pretty emotional, like I play emotionally. But I actually think that in some ways it's, even when I played sports and stuff, like it was a strength and a weakness. It forces, I'm hyper focused. I'm very competitive, and losing consecutive days even just feels bad, but losing like consistently for a month, even though I had a great April and a good February, or sorry, a great March and a good February, it doesn't matter, or a good January. It's just frustrating. It's a tough when this is what you're doing. And also, just real quick, guys, we do have some progress on the site, and we're going to be getting some people up and using it shortly. And we've got some pretty cool new features that I think you're going to like. So
I tell you something, guys. I'm still a little confused about the views on that Kentucky Derby video. I don't know why it got so many. Is it possible, Bobby, that since we have over 1,000 subscribers now, that when we post something, it moves to the You know what I mean? Like if we post something under the word Derby, maybe it just hits a few more people or something like that.
I think people actually know who you are from history and horse racing things and something.
But it wasn't leaving us under it was under your freaking YouTube channel.
But somebody would see that you're doing it, and then next thing that somebody passes along, and then it probably caught a little bit of a viral thing. I think that happened.
We'll see. I'm mathematically confused at that one, but hey, we'll have to pre this up, and just so you guys know, again, I don't like to make a big deal of this. I still consider myself like a hopeless beginner, but I did put a little hockey thing up there today, a little sneaky hockey video up with today's slate, and I dropped in the Discord. All 6 of you that want to watch, because people went on there, they said, do I want to put something up? With full disclaimer that I probably still don't know what I'm doing. I did put my process up there, and then we'll see what happens.
Yeah, no, that's awesome.
I'm ready for baseball?
Yeah, I'm ready to get into it. Like, I think I made you got your screen up. And yeah, this is going to be a weird slate, huh?
I'm very confused. There's like what to do with the Bauer situation, right? It's tricky, right? Because he's pitching, and so he has complete game upside. But like for him, like I want the 8th inning. You know, I want there to be 8 innings. You know, because he could throw through 8 innings, and also because they're on the road, he might be You know, if they're not winning, he's got like a 6-inning cap sometimes. You know, so it's tricky.
I want to be absolutely sure that he ends up pitching before I try.
That too.
I have no idea. I've seen almost every doubleheader. It feels like they change the pitcher. Not the Dodgers, but other teams. The Dodgers don't usually have to play doubleheaders.
Well, we'll know. I mean, that's
yeah. We'll get in. We'll figure that part out because that is going to be tricky. I personally think that there's more upside with. I mean, he has complete game upside every time he pitches anyway. But I do think that the 7-inning thing, it's going to be hard for me to kind of resist with him. Especially when we have the wind blowing in and it's cold in Chicago. By the way, yeah, I opened my computer and I look at the run totals this morning. I go, it's a 5.5 run total. Even in a 7-inning game, I don't know if I've seen a 5.5 run total. I mean, I'm sure I have, but 5.5 is like, that's the first game of the Dodgers day. That's really, really low.
By the way, I want to expand on something we talked about before. I shout out to a Twitter friend of mine that won the 100K yesterday. This guy, bro. When I did my projection stuff, I ran it by him. He's been pretty helpful to me in a couple of things also. He's been freaking killing it. So we talked about like these super chats or whatever it is that we want to do one of these days on YouTube. He went on, not to give away the other site, but he went on like one of the other main sites and dropped like a super chat, $500 donation like today after awesome. Winning. Yes.
Good guy. That's an awesome thing to do.
Yeah, he's the man. All right, are you ready to get going?
Yeah, let's get going with it. Because I'll mention the.
We have like 5 hours of calls today, so let's see.
Okay, let's do it. I'm ready. Milwaukee, Philadelphia. This is a game that's got some weather concerns.
Again, really?
Oh, we're gonna have a lot of weather things today too. It's gonna be rough. So that's just one thing to keep an eye out for. I'm actually looking at this one right now, and I've got it. I mean, look, I'll say, shout out to Roth because I do get my weather information from him because he's just the best there is.
Orange.
He's got it as orange straight up, and delay looks very likely, and he thinks maybe a late start it could happen. So we just got to keep that in mind. And last night it would have mattered because Vincent Velasquez was pretty damn good for a while, and then they didn't come back. But Velasquez was pretty good. So look, if depending on who the Dodger pitcher is, maybe you could make an argument here for Nola. I don't really have a whole lot else from this game that I'm desperate to attack. I could see a few Philly bats making some sense. Rhys Hoskins, Rio Muto, Baum is too cheap. But I don't think I want to fully stack it. And I don't really love either pitcher.
I like Nola.
I'm sorry, I do like Nola, but not over Trevor Bauer, excuse me.
Yeah, I like Nola. I like him almost as much as Trevor Bauer, but not quite. That's the best way I can describe it. I like him significantly more than the cheapies, although the cheapies are cheaper, right? So we'll get to the cheapies when we get to them. But I do like Nola for all the reasons we were going to like whoever was pitching against Milwaukee yesterday. I mean, like Milwaukee's better, but they have strikeouts in there, and Nola can pitch some strikeouts, so he's pretty good. I do have him Nola as a, do I have him as the best option on FanDuel? I think I liked him.
He's a really good option on both sides. Yeah, you're right.
I liked him a decent amount. I liked him almost as much as DeGrom, given the price on FanDuel. So that's that. And I'm with you in that I don't like any of the hitting from this game.
I do want to throw out as much. I do like Nola very much, and partially it's because you have high strikeout lefties against him, which is good because he struggles with lefties. The problem is Yelich is back in the lineup. That's a little stronger than it was.
Yep.
I actually think Yelich is an unbelievable one-off. There's like this is the kind of time you want to take advantage because Nola, as good as a pitcher as he is, he's not like he's not even like above average versus lefties. He's gotten to be close to average-ish. But you talk about an average right-hander versus Yelich at 4,400 in pretty decent hitting conditions, at least it looks like at the moment. So Yelich as a one-off actually might be my favorite thing from this game if I'm not playing Nola.
What's the weather in this next game?
We're gonna have weather issues. I'm pretty sure. I'll bring it up for you right now. And you know what? Rasta's got it. Storms should be cleared by first pitch. Worst case here would be a brief rain-interrupted warm-ups, late start or something. So basically, he's got it as green-yellow. So I think we're good to go.
Okay. So for me, both these teams are like probably my two favorite stacks on the slate.
Not ready for
Atlanta's expensive, but just from raw, numbers, I think they look good. And I think my favorite, at least right now, relative to value is Washington, and that would be the Robles, Turner, Schwarber, Bell, and Castro. And Enoa has been hit or miss. Needless to say, I don't like either of the pitchers, and I don't know. It's a million game slate, so it's kind of weird to come up with that as my top stack, I suppose. I don't know what kind of ownership they're going to get, but that's where I'm at right now.
Well, maybe take it for what it's worth. What the Braves are one of my favorite stacks of the day as well.
Beautiful.
Yeah, I don't know about the Washington side of this thing.
Okay.
I just want to point out, like, Noah's been really good. Like, maybe we shouldn't try and overly pick on this guy, but then you see the prices of these Washington guys between Hernandez, Schwarber, Bell, especially, and then Trey Turner even is probably too cheap, and definitely you can run here.
Castro 3,200. I mean,
but those are the guys wouldn't want as much. I mean, the Bell and the Schwarber and the Yadiel, those are the guys I would mostly focus on. But you're right, Castro too. I mean, sure, you can get into that. I just don't think on this full slate that I want to do that. There's a little bit of wind blowing in from center. It's only at 6 miles an hour right now, but just wanted to mention it. That kind of thing can dictate a lot because this is going to be humid and it's 81 degrees in Washington today. So the ball should carry. And I love the Atlanta team. It's going to be hard to figure out a way to get them in. I agree. I am still not. The only issue, here's the negative. Joe Ross has been surprisingly really good in 3 starts against really tough teams and really bad in 1 game. And in that game, he gave 4 home runs. So you get to see the good and the bad of the Joe Ross here. I would love it if Atlanta could hit 4 home runs off him tonight and maybe another one off the reliever. But he's been solid. I just want to point it out. I don't believe in it all over. You're gonna have to take some, bet against guys who have been decent sometimes. And I would like to play Atlanta here. So I'm sort of with you on that. But I just want to mention, don't be completely surprised. And one thing about Ross is, and I'll double check this later before we go live, but I do think he's pretty good against righties in general. So you probably try and prioritize lefties. I don't consider Ronald Acuna a righty. I just consider him a god. So you can just play him. He's just the best there is. But yeah, we can move on after that one.
Yeah, I think these Washington guys are just going to be forced to be popular. I mean, because people are gonna want to jam in Bauer, DeGrom, or DeGrom and Nola. You know what I mean? And these guys are so cheap. I mean,
yeah, they're cheap and there's power upside for sure against the Noah here. And even like you'll talk yourself into a stack because you get all these cheap guys, but then you also get Trey Turner at shortstop, who's one of my favorite guys to play in DFS just because the steal home run upside. I think he's, second in the league in steals and fourth or fifth maybe a little further back in home run. All right. You want to move on to Houston and New York?
Yeah. I don't know what it is about the MLB, but actually I do know what it is. I mean, sometimes I'll have like huge slates where I reduce things to very small I can make them pretty small. And this slate is not one of them. Well, actually, I do have like probably 1, 2, 3, 4 like tier 2 pitchers, and for whatever reason, I don't have. I thought I was going to get to more Herman for some reason. I got to look at that again. The 7,800 for him seems cheap. I got to think about that one. I don't like ranking against the Yankees. And with respect to the hitting, I just have all this being like secondary for me. Like I don't really have. I mean, I'm even looking, even at my secondary stats, I'm not getting to Yankees or Houston. I'm getting the Yankees a little more on FanDuel, but not so much on DraftKings.
Well, like, and realistically, what are we trying to do here? Like, I'm not saying I'm betting the under on this game, because betting unders in baseball is like just a recipe for just a nightmare and absolutely no fun. But I don't see why Zach Greinke is considered like this terrible pitcher. And it's been going on for a few years with him. Because he doesn't throw hard, he doesn't have overpowering stuff, which he never did, and he was the best pitcher in baseball for a few years. So he's still a really, really good pitcher. He had one bad inning against Seattle the other day. That was unfortunate for me. In general, he's still a really good pitcher, and I am not going to be stacking against really good pitchers on big slates in general. And the Yankees are the kind of team I would do it with. It's not like the Yankees are exactly clicking. Now they found something. They got a little something going, but I mean, they've faced some of the softest matchups with the highest run totals and just been nowhere close most of the time this year. So I don't see this as a spot where I want to try and stack them. And I'm definitely not going to stack against Herman and that bullpen behind them. Both teams with good bullpens as well. Now, of course, there's always that outlier game where somebody could explode here. It's Yankee Stadium, all that stuff. I'm just not doing it. I don't see any reason on this slate to make this a priority. The only thing is, I would just say that the bats are more affordable, especially the Houston bats, than they usually are. But I'm not doing it.
You know, as we got towards the end of last season, or whatever this last thing was, you commented a couple of times that some of these pitching projection systems just have to be just wrong because they just understate like so often. And I'm looking at Herman, for example. I'm not saying that I'm better than all this, but I'm looking across the board. Not that he's like the Cy Young winner, but they have him like projected for like literally like 12 to 13 fantasy points. I mean, that's a little insulting, isn't it? You know what I mean? Like maybe I don't know. Maybe they factor in that there's enough 3s and 5s in there to make that justified. But I don't know. I think these pitchers have been putting up much better numbers than that in general this year.
Yeah, they're doing it the wrong way, in my opinion. So they're not going for it's almost like, based on the projection systems that I look at for baseball for pitching, what I've noticed over the past 2 years that seems to be a little bit different is that it's almost like they're going with their season average. But that includes like a blow-up game where they gave up 8 runs in a 4-game sample size. So, you know, your average might be 13 fantasy points. And Herman, they were bringing along slowly. They weren't letting him pitch that much to start. So he only had 5 fantasy points in the game. He only had 1 in another game. So his average would probably average out to be the 12 or 13 that you're seeing for him today. But that is not really his average. You know what I mean? So yeah. I agree. And I just don't think you want to, like, look, they both struggled at times this year. And Herman, I think, actually has got really good stuff. But I don't think I'm going to try and pay just a little bit down from these superstar pitchers to try and get Herman in against a tough Houston team. He's not like super cheap. If he was like 5.8, maybe we could talk, but 7.8, it's not like he's like a bargain. And yeah, he could have a good outing. He's a good pitcher, but it's not like Houston sucks. And these guys, again, I'll just remind everybody, they work counts. It's not just in baseball. You don't just want to get the teams that are going to go out there and strike out a ton and all that. You want your pitcher to be able to last longer than 4 or 5 innings because the hitters don't make you work everything. That's partly why the Dodgers are so bad to take pitchers against, because they just work every count so deep. Houston's like that. The Yankees used to be like that. Haven't been as much this year, but I'm sure they will be more so in the future. Anyway, to me, if you're looking for a guy in that range, he's going to come up in our next game.
Yeah. So I'm with you on that. I think that Pivetta is a very legitimate SP2. I have him of the sub 9Ks, for example. I have him actually as my best one. I was confirming that. I have my best one by a little bit. Yeah, and then there's a couple of others, but we'll get to them. I do have him as mine. It seems kind of obvious. I mean, like for all the remember there was a slate a couple of slates ago where I guess last time he pitched where there's a whole bunch of dumpster pitchers. So we really had to figure out like which of these guys were actually kind of decent. And I think we all came to the agreement that Pivetta was at least fairly decent. And when you're looking for an SP2, like there we had to find an SP1 like him. You know what I mean? But now just we need him as an SP2. I think he's fine. With respect to the hitting, I do have Boston as kind of like a secondary stack, not a priority or anything like that. But he's in my second tier of teams. I would say that, and that's pretty much it.
I really like Boston. There will be times where he's back to himself and they're letting him really pitch, and I will play Michael Fulmer at certain times again because I'm just not a big believer that everybody just completely loses it. I've never been that guy, and it just doesn't happen. You know what I mean? Guys are nobody's giving guys a job and like, oh, let's see if he can still pitch it all, and it just doesn't usually happen overnight. And I know that it's been a little while for him, but this guy used to have good stuff, and I was a believer, and I'm not doing it now, but I don't think he's all as terrible as you think. Now, I do think this game, other than it being cold and the wind blowing in a little bit, it being in Boston, I'm starting to come around a little bit more on this Boston lineup, especially with like Cordero down at the bottom. I'm not that I love Cordero as a hitter or something, but they've got guys who can threaten from 1 through 9 now. And that's what my issue was with them early in the season. I didn't really like the bottom of their order or the Christian Arroyos and guys like that, at least not for DFS purposes. I think everybody's playable. I think it's one of my favorite stacks. I get nervous, stacking a game in 48-degree weather, but it is Boston. Again, I would even, if I was making a bunch of stacks though today, I would probably look, in general, you'd want the lefties here. So Verdugo, and I don't think people like to pay those kind of prices for Verdugo. So maybe it'll be a little bit lower owned than, no, they're going to play this stack. But I genuinely think you could stack this one every which way. You can go roundabout. I like Dahlbeck. I like Renfroe and Cordero in general. So they all have power upside. So playing one of those guys with some of these other top guys might be a way to get a little different with the stack. And Pivetta is in general really good against righties, like really elite. At least he has been. He was in Philadelphia. So you got lefties that are Robbie Grossman is a switch hitter and better right-handed. Candelario, he's very mediocre to say what he is. Harold Castro is absolutely not someone you'll ever be afraid of. And then you've got the one guy who you can worry about is Badu down at the bottom of the order at batting 8th, but more likely to strike out 3 times than he is at home run. So Pivetta definitely seems like if you're not going to pay up to me for pitching, that he would be the natural guy to pay down for.
Okay. So what do you think of Bauer today?
I don't think there's even like a question who the best pitcher on the slate is if this continues. If it's 50 degrees and they're in Chicago in a 7-inning game with the wind blowing in 10 miles an hour, I don't think that we have a lot to think about.
Well, talk a little more about that.
First of all, I think he's the best. I think he's got I don't see he and DeGrom as being very different in general in terms of fantasy production. The one thing that's different about the two of them, we've seen it happen with DeGrom a number of times over the past years where he'll just pitch an inning and they just protect him. They should. He's their future. Trevor Bauer is cut from a different cloth. I don't necessarily agree with a lot of things he thinks politically and a lot of other stuff, but he is the kind of guy you want to roster in DFS. He's the kind of guy he might give up 3 runs in the first inning, which he doesn't. I mean, he doesn't do that very often. But if he gives up 3 runs in the first inning, you might see like that just pisses him off, and he gets 15 strikeouts in 7 innings. Then he is not a normal guy. He's a lunatic, and take away the power upside away from him. That's his. I don't even say his Achilles heel because he doesn't have one. But I mean, you look at him; he's averaging 28 fantasy points per game right now, and in that, there's been some I think pretty bad variance against him in some tough matchups, including Colorado and San Diego and et cetera. So I think you can play Bauer tonight and expect him to have 30 plus fantasy points. Now, because what you brought up was really interesting earlier, because it's the first time we've actually had a thought where, okay, the 7 innings might actually be worse for a guy like Bauer. And he might be the only guy in baseball that's true about, because he has a leash of more pitches than anybody in baseball, in my opinion.
Yeah.
So it actually you could argue that hurts him. There's just no way to avoid. I mean, also you have a high strikeout team against him. Assuming the weather and everything stays the same and he's pitching and he's good to go and every yada, yada, yada. I just don't see how he's not a guy you're going to try and get in. And he's right there with DeGrom. And the truth is, Sheets, you know me, I'm probably going to try and find a way to play them both.
Yeah, I'm struggling. I'm struggling with the with the math of the inning and the pitching and the pitches. I right now have DeGrom just like light years ahead because of all of that, and I got to work that out in my head.
Well, I mean, DeGrom also has a much tougher matchup and a much better hitting environment. I don't know why the Vegas hates St. Louis so much, but they keep scoring runs. Like, you know what I mean? Now it is good.
I can make life easy on myself and just play them both. I mean,
that's what I think that the thing.
But I have other issues because I might end up talking myself into no low over Trevor Bauer at the end of this. I don't. That's just where I might be. I have to figure this out.
By the way, there's weather concerns in this game too, so that's another reason why you can maybe.
Oh, really?
Yeah, you can look back to Bauer. Maybe it'll make it a little easier on you if there's any risk or risk.
So I got a. You want a weird play? I got a weird play.
Don't give me a hitter.
Yeah, I do. I want to give you Max Muncy at 4,100.
No chance I'm playing a hitter in a 7-inning game.
I want to try it. I mean, he gets one at bat against a righty I've never heard of, right?
Hendricks is probably the pitcher.
Oh, I have Thompson.
No, I think it's going to be Hendricks with the wind
Oh,
blowing in.
Okay. I thought I was going to get some dumpster Chicago team and get 3 at bats at 4,100 from Muncy against a shitty righty. Okay, forget it then.
Yeah, I just can't do it. I understand that it's sometimes it gets there. It did that one day in a big way.
If the wind were blowing out, I would do it.
The wind blowing out, a different story. I think you could have thought about it. That's a game changer. I totally agree.
Yeah.
All right, Minnesota and Texas. So I'm not playing either of these pitchers, although if J-Hap was down in that 6.8K range again, you definitely would see me having some interest here. And I think there's upside for him still, even at this price. I just don't think I'm realistically going to do it on this slate. Kyle Gibson. Okay, so it's his former team, right? They believed in him a long time. Kyle Gibson has been really, really good. And certainly, I'll just point out that he's made, 6 starts now, hasn't given up a home run. Has just been really good. I still find myself a little bit drawn towards the Twins against their former pitcher. I like Gibson in general, you know this, but I also think he's combustible. I think he can give up enough hard contact, and I like the Twins lineup. So I can see both arguments being made. The Twins are not my favorite nor my least favorite, but I definitely think I might be I'm entertaining the idea of stacking the Twins. They're really expensive, so it's going to be tough to do. And like I said, maybe you just skip it because Gibson's been good. But I do think that they're kind of interesting. And you do have cheap options, like you'll get the Kirilloff back in there. Kepler is cheap. Potentially you get Rortvit again at catcher. I'm not sure about how they're going to handle that. Or Jake Cave might even make the lineup. So you have cheap guys you can mix in if you did want to stack it. I don't think I'm going to on this slate, but I just wanted to mention it because it is crossing my mind. I have them a little further down on my stack list.
I have Hap just under Pivetta. I think he's a reasonable conservative, never going to win a tournament option today. That's what that's where I am. Probably not going to end up playing him. So here's my thoughts on Minnesota and Gibson. I'm glad you got into that. So I actually here's my Kyle Gibson history. So again, you remember I played him last year when he had the big ceiling game because all year long there were people that I trusted that said, he actually isn't that bad. He's not that bad. He has not that bad.
A bad weird year. Yeah.
Right. So he put a big ceiling up there. Okay. So then the beginning of this year, every one of his first couple of starts, all of the podcasts were like, he sucks. He gives up too much hard contact. Let's attack him. And meanwhile, he was just putting nothing but good performances up there. Right. He had a 29 here. Then he had a 27 there. He has 16 against whatever it is. So I played him against Boston in his last game, and I was watching it and I had some comments I was going to make to you next time he pitched, and that's going to be today. So he's playing against Minnesota, and you had an idea of playing the Minnesota hitters. I will say maybe I was biased, and this is not stat based, but maybe it is too. I was biased, and I was really rooting for him. Mm-hmm. It was petrifying. Okay. you mentioned, based on your knowledge of his stats, that he gives up hard contact. Dude, every single ball was hit right on the freaking nose. It was like so scary. I thought that 7 different balls were going to be at the fence. And like the outfielders were going back and just barely freaking catching it. I'm like, just get me out of this freaking inning. I will never play this guy again. That's when I was going into the 6th inning. And so I don't know what the answer is, but I will say this, that if you want to take a shot on Minnesota with guys that can hit the ball hard, that I am totally in. that would be my comment on this game.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. The only thing is, like I mentioned, this not giving up any power is a little concerning to me. I mean, and
you say so, but I'm just telling you, it was.
He hasn't given up a home run, and this is sort of the same thing everybody always says about Kyle Gibson. And the truth is that throughout his career, he's just managed his way through games and pitches a lot of innings and doesn't give up a lot.
He got 100 pitches the last 3 games.
What's that?
He's got like 100 pitches the last 3 games.
Look at the innings. I mean, these innings are like better than the 8, 6, 7, 8, 6, 6. Yeah. I mean, those are all quality starts right there. Every one of them a quality start, by the way. He would actually be an awesome on FanDuel in every start. Yeah. Maybe we revisit this one later. I don't think I can bring myself to do it on this slate, but maybe I should still get some of these stacks.
See, that would be a stack I would literally jam in, because they don't rate well for me at all, And like if like you got all over it, I would totally play it. That's the only. I'm telling you, I would only do it if you did it.
I'll think about it. We'll flirt with that one a little bit later on. But I'm just looking at his home runs per 9. Like, they've always been really, really good. Okay. And he's pitched in hitters parks too. Some of his career, when he was that's not quite as much.
Kepler hits first, I'll play him.
Yeah, maybe he's the one, I guess. But like, I mean, he's just
play Cruz. You can play. What's Buxton now? Is he under 6K yet or no?
No. And by the way, I'm watching Minnesota they were tagging. There was tagging balls all over the place, right at people. Buxton hit the ball like 120 miles an hour, and the shortstop made a dive. I was like, that was the hardest ball I've ever seen hit. Buxton, who, by the way, I mean, Mike Trout hit 430 last month, and still Buxton was player of the month. That's how good Buxton's been.
Yeah.
All right, so I think we can move on from this one, and then we're going to get into the DeGrom situation. Yeah.
He's my top pitcher, and I don't like any hitting from either side.
Yeah. Why is the Mets total so low?
I don't know. Yeah, I mean, that's why I'm not getting to them. I mean, I don't know. I just wasn't getting there today. Is this guy supposed to be any good? This Oviedo guy? I don't know.
Yeah, but I don't. I mean, there's nothing to where I feel like we should be. I don't know. It just feels like a really, really low total. Like, I thought it was suspiciously a little bit low yesterday, and I'm looking. Is there a weather thing that I'm missing? Oh, I guess you do. Oh, that's what it is. The wind is blowing in pretty hard from left field, 57 degrees also, which is pretty unseasonably cool for St. Louis. Yeah. So I mean, I think that even just because of the weather, you kind of like, assuming this game plays, you kind of have to like DeGrom, and it's going to be hard to play Nola today for me. You're just not getting enough savings, and these guys are just in awesome pitching environments, it looks like. So yeah, I have Bauer, DeGrom 1 and 1A.
Any hitters? Not for me.
No, not with this. I didn't realize that if the wind changed and it was a little warmer or something, maybe, but I'm not with it like this.
So this next game is interesting. I guess I'll start with this one. So I have Minor as my as kind of like as a very decent SP2 alongside of Pivetta, Happ, and Happ. I have another guy also, but Minor at 7,100 is definitely in. I think he's definitely in play. I mean, I regard him as very similar, if not better than Pivetta. Honestly, Pivetta definitely has the better matchup, obviously, but I like Minor at 7,100. If I went this route of paying down for a second pitcher, that might be where I went. Cleveland can do some things, obviously, but I do like that. And then on the KC side of the hitting, I mean, they're actually emerging as a very, very strong value, and they're probably going to get a lot of ownership, actually. But the thing is that the guys that are values are not the guys that you want, like you said. So you have Merrifield, who's not cheap. You have Perez, who's technically not cheap. These other guys are, you like Soler at 3,400, Benintendi at 3K. Those are the guys that make this somewhat cheap. But based on what I have, I mean, they are one of the top value stacks on the board.
Yeah, I mean, again, just I would remind everybody, look at the weather. It looks like the wind's blowing in from left field at about 10 miles an hour. It's a little not ideal for trying to use lefties against righties against lefties, which is what we're going to be trying to do in this game if you're trying to get hitters. I will say Jose Ramirez seems like a premium play anyway against Minor. Minor does give up power, so if you're not playing him, I think he's fine as an option today. I do, but I think if you're not playing him, like in general, I would try and look for pieces against him, because he does give up a lot of home runs, certainly a lot more than Kyle Gibson. And I think Jose Ramirez, but Reyes is expensive. Harold Ramirez makes it cheap if you wanted to go mini stack here. I just don't think I'm going to do it. I'm not loving this like lineup. Maybe Ahmed Rosario is okay. I just don't love it. And on the KC side, I do agree that they're kind of interesting. I think that it starts though at 4 for me. Like I just am not going to play Merrifield probably. Well, Merrifield I'd consider. I'm not playing Santana at 5.2, and I'm probably not playing Perez at 5K. So Soler, Dozier.
Look what you could do. I mean, like, again, I'm not filling out the whole lineup here. You could pay up for, you could play Merrifield with these other guys. And
yeah.
If that's what you want to do. I mean,
Yeah, so. You could, I mean, or even like some sort of a wraparound, like like what I would go for would be the 4, 5, 6, 8, 1 kind of a thing. Those are my favorite spots in this. Hanser Alberto has always been decent against lefties, also really cheap. So just throw that one out there. All right. The Colorado game's not on the schedule, right?
No, it's not.
Okay, thank goodness. Not that I was going to do anything, just I don't like that it would have.
I like both sides of this game with respect of the Angels to the Tampa, meaning that I do like Cobb as a very decent SP2, very similar to Minor as far as what I'm looking at, as far as my desire to play him. And then yet Tampa is priced really, really low. So you might be able to, you might want to play these guys as kind of more values. Again, like you could play a Rosarena, you could play Lau, you could play, I mean, all of this stuff is like really, really cheap. Kiermaier, Dames, so again, they remain a very good value stack. So I think I would consider playing some Cobb and also some Tampa on the other side. I didn't like the, I just want to let you know that this guy actually brings some heat, this McClanahan. I'm not playing him today, but again, I played him the other day in an afternoon slate where all I needed was 4 innings, and he pitched 4 pretty decent innings, actually. I mean, he throws it really, really hard. Maybe one day I'll play him again. But that's pretty much all I got.
Yeah, I don't think he's going to have like the ability to go deep enough into games at 7K probably to make him viable. Yeah. But I'm a big fan of Justin Upton and Mike Trout in this situation. And I really like the one-offs or mini stack of Tampa Bay. Alex Cobb against his former team. I don't know why that's happening so much today. Brandon Lau, Meadows, the priorities, followed by Kiermaier and Rosarena probably. Kiermaier just because he's 2.3. You can run on Cobb, I believe. I got to double check that, but I'm pretty sure you can run on Cobb. And then you've got, our little Willy Adames down cheap if you want to add it to a really cheap part of a stack. So I don't know that I'll fully stack this Rays team, but I do think that Meadows and Lau stand out as especially good plays, and Rosarena, Kiermaier also make a lot of sense. So it's easy to stack. Cobb is extremely combustible. His last two times out there, he's gone a total of 4 innings in 2 starts and put up a combined negative 1.1 fantasy points. He hasn't been giving up the power like usual this year, but it's still pretty early in the season. So these guys all have upside to me, and I will definitely take some shots there. One great thing about stacking, so there's lots of bad things about stacking teams like Tampa Bay because of all the platooning and all of that stuff. But one great thing we don't talk about very much is it's really fun to stack teams that are going to run all the time. And same as something that's also true about Minnesota. Buxton gets on base, he's going. Kepler gets on base if they've got any read on the guy, he's going. Tampa Bay, you've got Lau, you've got Meadows, you've got even potentially a Rosarena, but especially Kiermaier. All those guys will go. So it's just nice if you did want to stack, you get a little bonus because you get that stolen base upside.
Toronto, Oakland, I don't really have much from. I will say that, Irvin can bring some heat. but I just have better matchups, I think, for the other 7K guys. I mean, Toronto's been hitting the ball pretty nicely.
Yeah, this Toronto lineup is not one I want to mess with.
Yeah.
I think you can play them on FanDuel as a stack, actually. I just think on DraftKings, if you're going to pay all the way up, I'd rather play the Atlantas. It's not quite as good at hitting weather as it had been in Oakland. It's still pretty solid. Still solid for Oakland. But in terms of one-offs in this game, Sean Murphy as a catcher, I know he's expensive, but I'd rather play him with the splits batting third than I would Salvador Perez. And Matt Chapman, I think, is in play. And then everybody, I can literally go down the list. These guys are all good against lefties on the Blue Jays. And you could pick any one of them. My favorite would be probably Springer, but he's expensive. Teoscar is the only one who's really that reasonable. I guess you can include Grichuk, but I prefer Teoscar to Grichuk. They're just expensive. I don't know. I mean, that's all I can say. This is a good stack, but they're just too expensive.
Pitt, San Diego, anything?
So this might be the way you get different tonight. I need to find out what the pitch count is going to be on Lamet here. I don't know what
starting.
What's that?
You have him starting?
That's who I've got starting. Not only that, the run total, Pittsburgh's run total is 2.9. I
mean, DraftKings has Ryan Weathers, so I don't know.
We'll see what happens, I guess, with that. I don't know if Ryan Weathers is pitching that their run total would be that low.
You'd be willing to take a shot with Lamet if he was starting?
I would consider it. I really would.
What's his price?
He's 8.9. That's the only thing. It's it just feels like silly not to do the other.
Yeah.
Yeah, I probably wouldn't do it unless I was playing a bunch of lineups, but I'm open to it. I think he's got tournament winning kind of upside in general.
I mean, I would play him probably before Happ.
Yeah. But I would need to know how many pitches he's going to throw because we haven't seen him pitch this year more than 2 innings.
Right.
Okay, so this time in San Diego, I will say that I think that they are a better stack than I did yesterday. I don't love, again, it's 66 degrees. You'd rather it be warmer in San Diego, especially. It is humid, a little bit of wind blowing out to right. Against Keller, they're expensive, but I do think that they're in play again. I don't know that how much of it I'm going to end up getting to but I do like them. I just don't like them as much as the Braves or Red Sox.
Yeah, I don't like them as much as the Braves. That's my thing.
Okay. I think we can though take shots against Keller. He gives up a lot of extra base hits, lots of hard contact. I believe, let's see, in how many innings this year that's been.
And it's a huge upgrade for the Padres hitters. I mean, anything's better than freaking Tyler Anderson.
Yeah, there you go. Look, yeah. When you get an ace like Tyler Anderson on the mound, you just gotta pray.
Yeah.
In this case, they don't have to. Ready to move on to the last one?
Yeah. Well, I have to say that if you didn't like any of that, I was kind of. I was hoping, or maybe hoping it wasn't, that Jorge Lopez would show up as a better play, because that could, when you have DeGrom and or Bauer on the slate, you always like to look for that cheap guy. But I don't think that it's gonna work out. As a matter of fact, this could be, again, this is the second night in a row I've said this could be the late night hammer. I think this could be both sides of the hitting. These are two of my favorite kind of secondary value-ish type stacks to go after. And, I don't know much about what you could do to Lopez, but certainly know you could freaking throttle Justin Dunn to some degree. So I like both of these teams as secondary stacks. From the players, Baltimore side, DJ Stewart, Austin Hayes, Mullen, Mountcastle, Franco. You could be the Mancini whisperer again. And then on the Seattle's, Haniger, Lewis, Seager, Moore, and France.
Yeah, it feels kind of weird to have a year where I haven't been just talking about Mancini the whole time, because that's usually what I do. I tend to like to play Baltimore in Baltimore because that's partly why I like, nobody likes to play them because their offense kind of sucks in general. But the one thing is when they're playing at home, they always have a monster upside because it's such a great hitter's park. Seattle, obviously one of the worst hitter's park in baseball. A great park, by the way, my second favorite park in all of baseball. But I think this is, so I have interest in Lopez. He would be the guy I would look to spend down for. I think he can hit 25 fantasy points if things break right against the Seattle lineup. I also like Seattle as a stack. So do with that what you will. I'm always going to be a little bit leaning towards stacking against Baltimore pitchers, even if I think that they're decent, because that the arms they have. It's not that their bullpen hasn't pitched okay. It's that I don't trust the arms in their bullpen, and I think that it's the kind of game that could get out of control. They play in the kind of games that can get out of control. That's been true over the past basically 5 or 6 years. And I'm going to keep treating it like that until they show that they really improved as a team. They've been a little bit better so far, but it's very early. And then these prices of these Seattle guys, you can play Haniger for 3.9, who I think is just one of the better players under 4K in all of baseball right now. Kyle Lewis, who I believe in. Marmelajoy to make things work because of the price. Seager is 4.3, Ty France. There's a lot of things to like about this team. I don't think Lopez is as bad as maybe other people talk about him being. But he does give up power. And, he's given up 6 home runs in I think in 8, basically in just over in about 20 innings. That's a lot. He doesn't always have great control, walks enough guys to where you can try and pick on him. So a stack against him makes a little bit of sense. But because of Seattle, as much as I like some of these cheap bats, overall, you look at this lineup, especially towards the bottom, 5 through 9 or 6 through 9, even 5 through 9, you can kind of go, okay, I can see how any pitcher in baseball could succeed against this team if you get through those top guys and maybe get the batted ball variance on your side. Jorge Lopez could have a good game. So I actually think Lopez beneath Pivetta for me for SP2s if I need the money. Maybe also right just behind Minor, really close with Minor, to be honest with you.
I will say this, by the way, I do think that Seattle will be much lower owned than some of these other teams that I discussed earlier. Because remember when I put the Bauer and DeGrom together and I ran all those Washington guys, it still left me like 3,300 a man, right? Yep. And same thing when I ran out those KC guys, it left me 3,300 a man. Here, if you do the Seattle guys you want to play, I mean, you probably can't even do it. I mean, you could, but then you're like really into the dumpsters. So Seattle's, I think, are going to end up being much more lower owned as a result. So
right.
If you did have that desire to do that, I mean, you could do a 4-man or you could, do something different.
Yeah, the only thing that makes Seattle, I tend to like to play Haniger and Lewis, and I don't like using outfield spots these days. We see how premium they are. It's just, we're loaded with both value and studs every night on the outfield. So playing 2 guys from Seattle doesn't feel as good. Whereas if I play, but you could play the France, Seager, and one of the outfielders mini stack, and then you can, because third base is not quite as strong today. I would say it's still solid, but second base is not as strong. So I would rather use those positions from a team like Seattle, if that makes sense. You know what I mean?
So at the end of pardon the interruption, which I don't even know that's still on.
Yeah, it is. Yeah,
they always have like a corrections at the end.
Yeah.
So I'm going to spend like 2 minutes. There's 2 teams that I listed as kind of secondary stacks that I just forgot to mention. So again, I'll just going to reiterate. I like DeGrom the best, and I'm struggling between Bauer and Nola. And then the cheapies would be Minor, would be, I guess, my top in that range, I suppose, and also Cobb. With respect to stacks, I like if I can get Atlanta in, that'd be great. But my top values are Washington, Tampa, and KC. And then Baltimore and Seattle, as I mentioned. But the one I forgot to mention was Philly. I do like Philly a little bit as well. I just know that I forgot to mention. I don't even know if you talked about it at all.
I actually did mention them.
Yeah, I know you probably did. I just wanted to put my thoughts out there also. And I would like Houston a little bit, but I changed my mind on them. So that's where I'm at on this slate. You have anything you want to say?
I'll sum it up. And part of this is pricing, part of this is ownership based, but the stacks that I currently plan to try to use the most, and it's going to be tough to do if I want to pay up the pitching, Braves and Boston. That's the tough part. Seattle's the easier part. And then I mentioned mini Phillies, mini Tampa Bay. Those are sort of some of the things I'm looking to do. I also think that Upton. So here are my standout plays from the night. Yelich, Soler, Dozier, Meadows, Lowe, Kiermaier, Rosarena. I mean, look, I know those are all 4 guys. I'm not saying I would stack all of them, but I do like all of them as one-offs or as in part of stack, whatever way you want to do it. Upton and Trout are at bat. Those are all individual bats that stood out either for price, or matchup. And I do have Bauer and DeGrom significantly ahead of everybody else. Maybe Nola. I don't see how I'm going to end up getting to Nola, to be honest with you, on DraftKings. And then Pivetta, Minor, and Lopez are the guys I'm considering for my SP2s if I'm not going to pay up. It's frustrating because I would like to pay up. There's a big tournament on DraftKings today, in case you didn't know. That's a monster, that 1,500 for 250K. I want to take a shot at that. And my natural thing is, okay, I'll find the value. Just give me the upside for pitching.
Give me my Bauer and my
Bauer and DeGrom. I don't want to mess around with anything.
I want my 60 points.
Yeah, exactly. Give me my 60 and let me move on and figure out a way to get pieced together a lineup that'll put together another 120 or something.
I might as well throw out my handful of one-offs too. So I'll throw out like 8 or so, just like you did. Kiermaier, Robles, Meadows, DJ Stewart, Tucker, Soler, and Turner, and Acuna.
And I will add one more that I forgot to mention. That's Kyle Schwarber. All right.
Okay.
So
good.
Should we, you want to do basketball or you have no time? All right.
Absolutely.
We'll wrap this up, and guys, we'll see you soon. And hopefully let somebody win some fucking thing tonight. I'm going to curse. Let's fucking win. All right.
I only want second.
All right. Sheets can have second. I'll take first. Let's go.
It is.
All right, guys, take it easy. Good luck to everybody.